Civar, director de Gaël de Patrimoni, el Manel Reda, director de l'ICCROM de Patrimoni, i a tots vosaltres que heu vingut i m'acompanyeu, el Gaël de Guichen, que no sé vostè, que tindrem el privilegi d'escoltar, i només això, molt contents de poder-ho celebrar, de poder-ho commemorar malgrat el Covid, i passo la paraula a l'honorable conseller de Cultura, la Gaël Riga.
No aplaudit, totes dues. Tenim 2 metres aquí, no?
Tots ens protegim a
Doncs molt bona tarda a tothom. Jo suposo que aquesta sala està plena de restauradors, per tant, per mi és un col·lectiu poc conegut, però que espero poder conèixer i reconèixer d'aquí molt poc temps. Em plau molt presentar el programa de commemoració dels 40 anys del Centre de Restauració de Béns Mobles de Catalunya. L'any 1981, ara ho explicava la directora, el Departament de Cultura, recollint l'important llegat de la Generalitat de Catalunya, va dur a terme un pla d'equipaments culturals d'àmbit nacional, posant en marxa el Centre de Restauració de Béns Mobles de Catalunya. Va ser una decisió francament estratègica, a l'alçada dels països culturalment més avançats, que va posar en valor la importància de la conservació del patrimoni en la preservació de la identitat col·lectiva del nostre país. Com bé sabeu, la primera seu del centre es va ubicar provisionalment a la Universitat de Sant Cugat, i no fou fins l'any 2003 que es va inaugurar la nova seu a Valloreig, en un solar cedit per l'Ajuntament de Sant Cugat, tal com va fer amb l'Arxiu Nacional de Catalunya, que també estava ubicat aquí a Sant Cugat. Per tant, és oportú agrair al consistori de Sant Cugatenc el seu interès i col·laboració realment clau per tots nosaltres. Després de 40 anys intensos, podem expressar amb satisfacció que el resultat ha estat enormement positiu, amb més de 30.000 actuacions arreu del territori català. El centre ha tingut sempre una clara vocació territorial, donant suport als ajuntaments, consells comarcals, bisbats, parròquies, museus i arxius, fundacions i associacions culturals. Ara m'explicava la directora que realment us passeu el dia anant amunt i avall i voltant, però és una feina francament interessant. Durant aquests anys, el centre ha estat un referent en la determinació dels criteris d'intervenció en el patrimoni, d'acord amb les institucions internacionals, i ha contribuït en gran manera a la consolidació de la conservació com a disciplina científica, promovent la innovació i la recerca, la formació i la transferència del coneixement entre els professionals del sector. Han estat els anys en què al nostre país s'han format un conjunt de professionals altament qualificats, que han dut a terme un gran treball al servei del patrimoni, amb qui el centre ha col·laborat extensament. Molts d'aquests esteu aquí avui. En els últims anys el centre ha fet un esforç important per incorporar altres especialitats, com la de document, obres sobre paper, fotografia, art contemporani i la de conservació preventiva. Avui, precisament, el reconegut especialista Gaël de Guichen ens oferirà una interessant conferència sobre aquesta temàtica. Moltes gràcies, Gaël. Han estat uns anys de restauració d'obres emblemàtiques, com el tapís de la creació de la catedral de Girona, la capella dels Dolors de l'església de Santa Maria de Mataró, el beatus de l'Arxiu Diocesà de la Seu d'Urgell, les grans portes de l'Horta de la Catedral de Tarragona, els grans retaules barrocs d'Arenys, el Miracle i Cadaqués o la portalada del monestir de Santa Maria de Ripoll, per posar alguns exemples. Finalment, només, vull agrair a tot l'equip del centre la feina feta durant aquests anys, a tots els professionals del país que hi han participat i als titulars de les obres, així com a totes les institucions que hi han col·laborat. Ha estat l'esforç de tots plegats que ho ha fet possible. Per molts anys més. Que tingueu i gaudiu d'una gran conferència.
Moltes gràcies, consellera. Hem fet un pòster commemoratiu per celebrar aquest 40 aniversari. Després ho donarem. És aquest, i tots els que esteu aquí, després passeu per donar-vos una cosa molt pràctica, però tots els que esteu aquí, quan sortiu, passeu per la secció i donarà una cada. D'acord? I ara la Maria José Gràcia, que és la nostra especialista en l'àmbit de la conservació preventiva, presentarà el Gaël de Guichen perquè ell procedeixi a la conferència.
los que no els coneixeu, pues que no vaig fer. Llavors, per fer una mini presentació, des de l'any 1969 és membre de l'ICCROM, ara està jubilat però segueix col·laborant com a assessor del director general. Durant tots aquests anys ha dedicat la seva vida a difondre la conservació en tot el patrimoni mundial, ha col·laborat amb més de 100 països, amb més de... Bueno, avui ens deia, espanta la quantitat de projectes. Va dedicar més de 10 anys a treballar a l'Àfrica, on es va centrar sobretot en la reorganització de les reserves, i allà és on van desenvolupar el mètode reorg, que és el que nosaltres ara estem intentant implementar a les reserves dels nostres museus, i és el motiu, entre altres coses, també perquè el tenim aquí entre nosaltres. I li hem demanat, com a part aquest de la conservació preventiva, que ens vingui avui a fer un resum d'aquests 40 anys, d'aquesta evolució de la disciplina en el món.
Es muy bravo, ¿no? Non puedo hablar la lingua vostra, il catalán, non puedo hablar spagnolo, perché il mio spagnolo è peor che il catalán. Puedo hablar en italiano, puedo hablar en francés y puedo hablar en inglés. Al principio, ¿cuál lengua hemos pensado? La lengua más conocida hoy es el inglés. Entonces, la proyección es en catalán y yo hablo inglés. So I have to ask you one first question to understand a little. Who understands English? Raise your hand. So it's a large majority. Now I have a second question. Who understands my English? Oh, so some people understand my English. Good. So let's start. So for the 40 years of your place, which incidentally I did not know, I knew the center long ago when my friend Gaël de Guichen here, you can do a big clap because he has done a lot of That's the end of my conference. Now, he took me to the former Central San Cugat more than 40 years ago, and I've seen the difference. Really, I have to say, and I don't say it just to make pleasure, really, you have a fabulous center. I had the chance to travel around the world in really important place, important museum and so on, but rarely I've seen such a place where you can work peacefully with space, with a beautiful place, light and so on. You are very lucky and you have a great responsibility for your heritage. So for the 40 years of the creation of your center, I've been asked to speak about preventive conservation, past and future. So, important to define what we are speaking about, say what we know. But if I ask you, what do you know? Perhaps we will have a certain disagreement. So I would like to define how this idea of preventive conservation have raised. As you probably know, perhaps it has been said, I had an enormous chance in 1969, 68 and 69, after Christ, to work at the prehistoric cave of Lascaux. I worked not there, I worked in. I lived 50 meters from the cave, in the wood. I was going down in the cave every day, and sometimes at night. So that was my job. And my job was to define if it was how many people could enter in the cave without damaging the cave. That's the problem. Conservation and communication. That is the base of our work. To keep those paintings hidden, it has no sense. Or perhaps for the next generation, but it has no sense at all. We must do all we can to ensure that this will be known from inside and diffused to the maximum number of people. To conserve this cave closed, what is the purpose? What is the purpose? It's like if you have a treasure, you sit on it, and you are the only one to know that this treasure is. So I had this sense, and it has hit my, what remains, my head. You see? Look, a little story. If you cannot hear me at the back, I don't speak in a loud speaker, so if you can't hear, you just wave. Please don't hesitate. So, the cave, you see, found 18,000 years ago, found in 1940, then opened to the public in 1942, and opened altogether with more or less people until 2000. And then in 2000, closed, definitively closed from 2000 to today. It's dramatic. It's a shame. We are not able to show to people this, like Altamira, this exceptional testimony of the past. It is a shame. We specialists. And now, you see, there are only technicians who enter when in 1963 there was 1,800 visitors per day. Now, 3 specialists a month. A disaster. And this has hit. How have we reached this point? For this cave, which was conserved for 18,000 years, in a perfect condition. Another experience I had, and partly we had it together, was in the Museo del Cairo. Museo del Cairo, you know, which is especially well known because of the treasure of Tutankhamun. What was found? It was found, you know, over 2,000 objects, and this object at the center, which is the fan, the Ostrich Fan of Tutankhamun. The Ostrich Fan of Tutankhamun, which came to us, you see, in 1924. And if I put the story, you see, it was created in 1320 before Christ, found in 1923. And then, look at it, the photo that I managed to select. It's Ostrich Fan and ivory. 1970. A photo I took. 1980. Bon, you have some color change, but 2010. You see, in less than 100 years, this object, which has been kept from something like more than 2,000 years, suddenly in front of the eye, in front of everyone, in front of every visitor, in front of every specialist of the museum, it disappeared. Why? We are not able to conserve an object which has been conserved by nature. Who is wrong? We are. So all this hits me very much, those 2 examples. And in order to reduce the degradation, I call this prevention. This was, in 1982, I started to use the word preventive conservation, which has nothing to do with restoration and conservation. or very little to do. Restoration, an object is damaged, has been damaged in the past. We will do something, to perhaps, I don't know, that's a question of not technical problem. It's an intellectual problem, we will put back the head, we will not put it, shall we repaint it, we will not. But we will do restoration damage caused in the past. We will do, perhaps, but it's stable. But perhaps here, this one has, painting is flaking. Perhaps it's eaten by insect. And this, we will call it curative. You would cure it. It's like a doctor. You don't need a doctor for this one. Here we need a doctor. You are a doctor. This is curative conservation. This is the past. Damage caused by the past. This is, and it's not urgent to do it. This is the present. If we don't do anything, there is more flaking, the insect will start to eat it completely. This will be curative conservation. And then, so past, present, future, preventive conservation. That are three different actions which are totally different with one from the other. No urgency, necessity of preventive conservation. Ensure the future. But in order to ensure the future of all this, we need to know who are the aggressor. If I ask you the first question is who are the aggressor, I'm sure that in your mind, sure, your first idea will be relative humidity. I'm not so wrong. And so you have the cultural heritage, you say wrong temperature, you will say wrong humidity, and then you will start to increase. Perhaps, can you read it at the back?
Yes.
So. Okay. So, and then we will have microorganisms, and then we will have light, and then, oh yes, when we put them in exhibition, and then when we don't maintain it, and then when we do a right restoration, we can damage, and then when we put it in the wrong storage, and then when we do a bad documentation, those of you who are dealing with documentation, and then wrong, bad archaeological excavation, and then excavation clandestine, and then vandalism, and then fanatism, and then fuego, the Museo del Rio, and the French cathedral, and then flood, and then terremoto, and then wrong training. The people of you, if you have received a wrong training, you are destroying the cultural heritage. Sorry. No, I know that in Catalonia it's exactly the training. Wrong motivation, you don't care about it. Wrong control, you don't go back to see what you have done. And then wrong juridical, if your law in Catalonia protect building, and I say it in front of the minister. So, and then administrative, if, I did not know that I would speak in front of you, if you don't put enough money, if you don't find enough to ensure that this beautiful place have enough possibility to work, enough staff which is permanent there, at the end, people will remember that at this period, the cultural heritage has not been protected. And then no cultural project, that's the worst. We don't know what we do. Why do we conserve this? Why do we conserve that? Why? That's a big problem. And that's what I call cultural project. And all this, you see that now, all those are natural causes, here are human causes, here you have with all this, the whole thing is destroyed in today, here it's the damage are slow and cumulative, and all this That's 64 aggressors to our cultural heritage. And if we want to ensure that we will protect all this, we have, like a good doctor, he has to know really what are the illness for the human body. And here who are aggressing me, and here, if we want to ensure the future, we have to know all those 64 aggressors. And when we have all of them, then we can really make a good diagnosis. So, this is preventive conservation. It requires a very deep change of mentality. We need to change our mentality. We look at the future in a different way. And what are those little changes that we need? I define them in 7 points. Here, we think of object, fine, single object, beautiful object that I've seen in the laboratory, superb textile. Let's think widely, collection. We have not to select this one. The other has to select a lot of signification. We have to look at the cultural heritage, it's a whole. So we need to look at them as collection. We are speaking of a room in this museum or in this castle. This room is, no. We have to think of the whole building. Because if in this room it is sound, but the top room is humid, this room will be humid. And the collection here will be humid. So don't look at just this place. It's what we will do in Villanova, that we will start on Monday. We think of individual. Look at a very good conservatory story. No, it's a team. You are a team here. And you have to think in the same way. Globally, we work in team. You have different specialists here, but all together it's much better than everyone single put together. Short term. You understand that it should be long term. We shouldn't think, politicians sometimes are thinking. I hope you will let me get out of Catalonia. You will not no, you don't want to kick me, you will kick me out. You don't want to kick me. No, sorry. I'm sure you agree with me. We have to think long term. Sure, there may be some realization during a certain time, but let's think not of the 21st century, let's think of the 25th century. We are thinking of professionals. Forget about it. We have to think of public. We are conservator likes to think of secret. No. We must communicate. We must say. We have a heavy responsibility to save the culture of your region. And they have to know that things are, they have to know, the public, that they are short in money sometimes, not sometimes. We think, como? You have done your intervention by using this product and so on. Yes, of course. But my question is, do we have to think how? Which is good. But it's better to say why. Why are we doing this job? Why every morning you come to this place? To make a living, of course, to do a good job, to be in front of some beautiful object, because the most beautiful are coming here. But you have to think absolutely why. More than only the reason. So forget about this. Preventive conservation is that. But preventive conservation is not defined yet. We say say what it should be, but we don't know exactly what is the definition of preventive conservation. And I have to say that the first time I had to start to have a good definition was in Cuba. There was a UNESCO course for Spanish colleagues who came from, I think one came from Spain, but all the others from Latin America. And we spent 15 days. One of them, you know, Rafael, he was Benoît Tapol. We had 2 weeks on preventive conservation, and we decided together to decide not what is preventive conservation, but what is a plan of conservation. Because we have to do a plan, we have to work now in a well-structured way. And at the time, they defined preventive conservation. I just let you read, try to read and understand. Every word has a sense. I shut up now and I let you read. You read Spanish, by the way. Yes. Perhaps you understand. Okay. I let you read. Per rinforzare l'identità culturale e elevare la qualità di vita. Our job is to raise the quality of life. Okay, that's it. In the first, I asked in many places to do this, to do a definition, and it's the best one I received. 2020, in year 2000 in Cuba. But we don't yet have the definition of what is preventive conservation. Finally, it took, we had to come to 2010 to have accepted by ICCROM the definition, a definition. It was not fully agreed. You see, there have been 9 votes against the definition. It took 6 years to a team of 8 people to define what is preventive conservation. Not easy, huh? So the result is this. I will let you read it slowly. Read. Objetivo, l'objectif, travailler avec un objectif, évitar, minimizar future deterioration of techniques. We want to reduce all risk to the ground. One risk will be easy if I let it go. Huh? That's what I mean. One other, I touch it. The risk. Huh? Of course, you have light and all that. You see, I will try to create around, without touching it, around condition, the best condition to prevent damages. And if I manage to create a condition, because I lock the door, I give you the light and so on, it will be good for the essential, but it is good also for this one. And it's good also for the flag. Mm-hmm. We have created condition in order to ensure the future. So it's not on one object, you do it on group of objects. The whole collection, the whole castle, the whole museum, the whole archaeological site of Ampurias. It's indirect, I don't touch them. Huh? And generally, they don't modify the appearance. That is a disaster. That is a big problem. Because if I do all this, if I create, if I have locked the door and nobody can steal it, the object, if I have the right light, the people who are not technicians don't know it. So all my work on preventive conservation is not visible. And people say, what have you been doing? When in Villanova we will reorganize the storage, when I hope one day you will come and visit it. You see, what you say? Normal. Yes, it's normal, but it was abnormal before. So this is now, it has taken, I took you 6 years, because it has been accepted in 2010, to get the definition accepted by the profession. And for museum, and what was exceptional is that CHEN, which is the European Center for Normalization, have accepted the same definition, not only for museum, but for all cultural heritage. Museum, library, archive, historical town, architecture, and archaeology. Now, all the professions have a common definition about preventive conservation. Alors, now we have to wonder how this notion of preventive conservation has diffused slowly. Of course, with meetings like this one, because you had the idea to do. Okay. You have accepted this. Well, first of all, it diffused by conferences, just lecture. It's lecture. You see here, you are invited in 1983. Conservation preventive. 83, 84, 85. Slowly it diffused. Then, by publication of conference, the first conference which only did conference, not one lecture, this is lecture, conference on 1 week. The first one was in UNESCO in Paris, in French, La Conservation préventive, 300 pages. 2 years later, the British, 1994, 250 pages. 2 years later, first conference, Curative Conservation preventiva, in Spain, in Vigo. So in 4 years, I would say the whole active work in dealing with conservation, preventive conservation, was in 4. And now you did not have to pick up a little information here and there. You had those 3 volumes. Then it went on. For instance, one of the main professional organization, IIC, has done, you see, 2018, 27 preventive conservation, the state of. So now you have something written. Then you had books. And look, ICCROM, for this conference, I asked in the ICCROM library on preventive conservation, you have 197 titles in English, 70 in Spanish. For another group, 306, 114. You have in Spanish 8,230 titles, which means something consistent. But sometimes not everyone understands preventive conservation, as I'm explaining to you, because they are not following the definition. But there is now a mass of information. You cannot say, I don't know. Training, l'Université de Paris, le diplôme supérieur, conservation préventive. 1 year, not once week or one hour. 1 year. Here, University of Conservació in England, preventive conservation, 1 full year. Not just powder. And of course, those people who have been trained need to find a job. So if the administration doesn't understand this and doesn't create department in the large structure, as you have done here. You have created, you have paper, and you have preventive conservation. Now those who have been trained can find a job. Look here, the National Museum in Serbia has a department of preventive conservation. Of course, museum like l'Art Museum, the Prado has one. Service de la conservation préventive. It is something specific. It's not one person who is interested about it. No. There are jobs. And which means that if there are jobs, there are people who have on their visiting card, conservatory restorer, Anna della Modica is consultant on preventive conservation. Here, it's a curator. Gilles Paco est chargé de la mission de la conservation préventive. Here, it's an architect who is specialized in preventive conservation for cultural heritage. Then, on large creation of museums, like this one, this museum, le musée des conférences à Lyon, they made an announcement. There is an international competition for architects, and the architect who applied had to give names and company which in their team, because it's a have an architect, people for structure, people for movement of the crowd, economists, acoustic, circulation, conservation, preventive. So there are companies who are only dealing with our specialists in preventive conservation. So now it starts to build up in life. And then the people who are dealing with preventive conservation and exchange. So there are associations of specialists in preventive conservation. Here you see this is in 2017. There were about 300 people who conveyed to exchange only on preventive conservation. Other thing for the public. For instance, it's not funny at all. You see, this is what is given to this museum in Lyon, a flyer. They have made a special tour on preventive conservation in the museum. And they explain to the visitor what has been done, why this object is protected against this, why this object is in the showcase, why this object is fragile, it looks very strong, it's fragile, and they have a plan with explanation. There is a tool on preventive conservation. Now, finally, the professional association has made a code of ethics, Código de Ética, where they speak about preventive conservation. In ICCROM, we have been working on this. ICCROM has created a Código de Deontología, where Article 2 speaks specifically of preventive conservation. La conservazione privata è per quelli che non sanno leggere resteranno. Los professionals de museos, not only the curator or the conservatory restorer, and so on, everyone have a fundamental responsibility. Countries like Colombia have created a complete program, several years, a national campaign on preventive conservation, where all those museums and others have launched a similar campaign. So it means that they can exchange, and the cultural heritage of Colombia is now better preserved. But it's not one person who says, I'm specialist in preventive conservation. No. It requires a change of mind. Of course, also, you have to deal with journalists and to explain to them what it is, what we are doing. Because they come only to see when there is a problem, when there is a fire or an object which is stolen. They have to understand what is behind the curtain. So, one of you, when I asked what do you want, one of the colleagues here asked, but preventive conservation is only applicable to museums. I imagine that you have already the answer. It's a mentality facing cultural heritage who risk to be damaged or not. So of course, you have it in library, you apply it in the same way in churches, in castles, in historic houses, in the same way. The aggressors are not the same. Sure, on archaeological site, it is sure that in the church, the textile on which you are working, the problem will be light. It is sure that on an archaeological site like Ampurias, the problem is not light. But will be people walking on it, who can be all. And of course, on historic site, villages, house, historic center, and so on. At this point, and I will go very fast, we need to have a plan for each group of type of cultural heritage we have to deal with. So the plan, and I will, it's rather technical, so I will do it in 2 minutes. You have the good you want to transmit to the future, this one or this one. You make your cultural project, very important. Why should I conserve this? Why do I want to keep it? The cultural project will be perhaps, I will exhibit in a museum, fine. The cultural project can be, no, I will exhibit it in the church, it will be different. This object is taken into procession once a year. The procession is a difficult moment, it's dangerous. So I will deal with this in a different way. This is what I call cultural project. What I want to do with this type of good. So, depending on the cultural project, I will look at all the possible aggressors. In the procession, this one will not have the same problem that in the church or in the museum. I will look at what are the specific risks. I will, when I know the specific risk, I will look at what is the problem with the administration, with the staff, with the specific building. I will look at the community, what the community wants from this object, from this church, from this castle. And when I have all this information, I will make my plan, which means I will avoid the damage, I will block the damage, I will measure the damage, I will react to this damage, and I will communicate to the press. And to the press, to the officials, and so on. And it's applying those 64 aggressors that I can make my plan. Now, all this is theory. Now let's put it into practice. And it's the last part of my talk. The last part of my talk. I should have put more, but I was afraid to do too much. So, I will explain to you an exhibition which took place in Florence, in Italy, and Firenze. You remember there had been the flood in 1968, and between other has been damage in the Conservatoire de Musique, musical conservatory, the whole collection of violins from the Médicis family, done by the most famous luthier. So you see, it was the largest collection, done by the best producer, historically known, and belonging to the Medicis family, damaged during the flood. And when this is damaged in a flood, you imagine how much damage it can do when it's remains in the water. So for 15 years it was being kept. And somebody, an architect, had the idea. We have the Palazzo Pitti, where the Medicis were, so let's exhibit it now that it has been restored and it is in good shape. And it has a long history. Let's show it to the visitor. It's not here to keep it locked in the storage. So, there was the curator of the Pigorini, who was holding his violins. You could not approach, you could not take photos, it was very fragile. Then you had the architect who said, oh, what a good idea, we should exhibit it. So, the poor was terrified. He said, wait, I'm keeping the climatic condition in the storage, and now you come to me and you say that you will exhibit it in the but how will you control the climate? So the architect said, air conditioning. But the curator said, but look, air conditioning in the Pitti Palace. You have to put tubes that are never in like this. Yes, but I will put a nice storage, a nice air conditioning. And the curator said, why? If we put them in showcases made specially to have not an active type of climate, but a passive one. And at the end, he won. It's a long story, but I will make it short. And the result was this. That with a passive method, it has cost 4,000 euros. With an active method, it was 100,000. Preventive conservation, you see, could be different and less and cheaper if you think of it in a different way. It's not only this field that where we have to feed in a different way, if we look at the future. Now, you probably, I had an incredible chance to be called by your ministry to lead a team of 24 colleagues, Spanish colleagues, in different fields, to see if it was possible to reopen to few visitors the cave of Patrimoni. I was called because I did it in Lascaux in the past, and I don't know why I had this incredible chance. So, when we took the cave, it was in 2010. It was in good condition, but it was locked. And you see, I've understood preventive conservation is keeping the good, but this good has to be enjoyed by other people. The emotion I had in front of this object, and I thank you for the explanation you give me on this object. This emotion, I want other people to feel. And the idea was not to keep the cave, but to keep the cave open to visitors. Perhaps not, please come and so on. No. How many? In order to be sure that it will not be damaged, but it will be seen. It can be seen by 5 people. But those people can go out and say, I've seen Crystal Cave. Not I've been, but it is something, it's fantastic. Not only the copy, but I can testify that the copy is as good as the original. That's important. Not only specialists, normal people, all of us. So that was the idea. And so in order to do this program, this plan of preventive conservation, we work in 16 different. But we were, in a regular interval, we were working together. Because what was proposed by a team did not work with this other team. And we had to decide all together. So it has been 2 years of really super. There were 20, we were 24, and after some time there were more than 60 people working. It took us 2 years. And we work in teams. Okay? What does it mean, work in team? It's not that you are, it's like a football team. It's not a group. Not you don't take the best in one, this, the best in this, the best in that. You put them together and you have the best team. Oh, no. The best football team is not 11 people who are the best in their country. It's something different. And we work in teams, each team, and look how they work. Because everything is there to understand how to work in team, but not only in preventive conservation. In all places, all offices, all industry. Tell me that the lecture should finish. So, look. And say, if one is not, doesn't disagree, he says so. He says so. You disagree? But why? For me, no. Why? And then we exchange. And at the end, we come out the best. And everyone understands, yes, I have understood. I didn't at the beginning, but now I understand why we should do this. This is how we have been working. And as you know, we were able to find a solution. We realized that 5, it could have at the time, because we had to put the foot in the door. He had been closed for 10 years. And we managed to make a decision that 5 people a week, one day a week or Friday, 5 people could enter in the cave for half an hour without risking anything for the painting, and that the cave absorbed those 5 perturbations. And I don't know if that's been a long battle, because when it was agreed, 5 people were asking, but who are those 5? The mayor of the place wanted to say some Americans are ready to pay $100,000 to enter the cave. No. Sometimes the politicians say politicians should be politicians, the scientists should be scientists, the prehistorians say prehistorians. And they wanted battle. And I made a proposal. I said, look, there are people who every day come to visit the museum and the copy. They pay. So they are the people who have the right. They want to know more about the cave. They are those who have the right to enter. So what has been decided, on Friday there is a transparent box. The people who enter put their tickets, and there is a draw, and the 5 people who have been drawn can go and see the origin. And it has been accepted. Not easy. As you can. Well, that's, you see, we managed to save the cave and to visit it. I think, no, I will not do that. The last project I want to show you is reorg, the one we will do in Villa for the first time in Spain. Well, reorg, it's not only you have a cave in disorder. I will explain to you. I'm sure she has explained it to you beautifully. But you have to understand, very simple. There are 50,000 museums in the world.
Yes.
50,000, roughly. So you imagine that there are, no, you know that the museum exhibit only 5 to 10% of their collection, which means that generally underground you have 90% of the collection. Not each museum has at least one room for storage, but a museum like the Louvre has 60 storage. Prado probably the same thing. So altogether it's not 50,000 museums, it's not 50,000 storages, it's 500,000 storage. And it has been calculated that 60% of those museums, which means 3,060 rooms, are in disorder. The collection is not documented, not photographed. Sometimes you move on the object, I can give you an example, and so on. So, to ensure that this cultural heritage will not be damaged, ICCROM launched a project with UNESCO which is called reorganization. The reorganization is not only to put objects in place, it's much larger. It would be another conference. You can invite me for the 50 years anniversary. If you are happy with this one. So it's not just to put something like this in a shape, but you know it's this object which is here now. With this, we respect this object. We respect the person who has created this object. And the reason why he has created this object is good, but this object should not be on the ground. That's what it is. Impossible to find and so on. This is nothing. Okay, so this project reorg has been done in more than 25 countries. It has been done in Chile, it has been done in Kuwait, it has been done in France. It's not only countries which are poor. Huh? It has been, in France it was in a royal castle, you understand? Oh, we did it in Algeria, we did it in China, we did it in Portugal, where we went together in China. I asked Maria Jose to come with the team of coordinators to reorganize in China. We did it in Portugal, we did it in Madagascar, in 29 places. And now we will do it in Villanova because you had this brilliant idea to decide to try to have a plan for all the museums of your region, and you will be the first. I hope there will be other regions than Catalonia who will launch a program like this. Because those storage, I'm sorry, as you are here in front of me, I speak with you, but I speak with you. It's not, when you visit a place, they take you in a place which is beautiful. Well, there are storage which are beautiful here, like the Maritime Museum, which I heard. But those you are taken to visit, they don't take you they don't take you the official to places which are in total disorder, which are a shame. Here now we are launching this program in Catalonia, thanks to the insistence of Maria Jose. So this is a program, and you see now there is a team. There is all those people, 250 people in the world, coming from all over the world, who join to exchange problems about saving cultural heritage in storage. Now, la conservazione preventiva implica il pubblico, because the public is the one who is beneficial. I will speak of a large monument, the Colosseum. You know see it in Rome. It is seen by millions of visitors, 4 or 5 million a year. All those people, they feel, oh, it has been there for 2,000 years, more. It will survive for 2,000 years. It's wrong. It is wrong. When somebody tells me, oh, it has been kept, look, it has survived. In French, I say, ça c'est bien conservé. Wrong, wrong, wrong. If ça c'est conservé, it's because people like you have been caring. Because officials have wanted to ensure that what is today will be there tomorrow and the next century. It is wrong to, you need to have a change of mind. When somebody tells me, oh, it has been well preserved in Lascaux, they were telling me, oh, it has been well preserved for 18,000 years, it will remain for 18,000 years. In French we say, my foot. Wrong. And when people ask me, they tell me this, they say, no, I'm 80. You think that I will go up to 160? Okay, I go fast. So Curative, the Curative, we teach a school program of conservation of the Curative. They made posters like this. They made posters like this, and they exhibited. After 1 year of teaching, they made posters about the fragility of the Curative, and it was the children of the school which present for 1 month the museum in the Curative their poster showing how they see the museum how was fragile. I will show you another one. It's a letter which I have here, but I will not read it because it's too short, too long. You must involve the public. When you do any kind of intervention, do it in public. I know the conservator doesn't like this, but you have to change your mind. It's not, you should explain, not, in some places you are put in a showcase, in a box of glass, and you are working in front of the public, and the only thing that the public sees is your back. No. Every 15 minutes you should explain. Look at this statue, look at the problem. I will try to do this, I'm doing that, I'm facing this, I'm using this product. The product that was used in the past is no good and so on. People will understand and they are excited. This is in the Capitol, in the Museo Capitolino, Capitol Museum in Rome. Then you can open the storage to visitors. Here it's a school in Nouvelle-Calédonie who is visiting the storage. 2 weeks before, it was impossible to enter because there was no space to move around. So I conclude here. The problem that we encounter in trying to save cultural heritage is very similar to the problem we face in nature. Conserving nature is, for all of us, a problem. We can, when you are changing the oil of your car, you can discreetly throw it in the where you want, and then it damage. Nobody sees it, but in the future, everyone will see that it has been damaged. It's very similar. Fragility, risk of deterioration and disparition, and requirement of the help from the public. When I was 6, my parents took me to the Louvre and I saw this painting. I have always known. It was a shock for me. When I was 10, he took me to Pompeii, which is a fabulous place. But it can disappear tomorrow. Because if the volcano starts again, Pompeii will be buried again. When I was 12, I was taken in Istanbul. I was very lucky. My father liked art and took me there. And I saw this mosaic, which now you see as this church has been transformed into a mosque. Now it will be very difficult to see. And I'm very sad that people can't see it anymore. Then I saw the fantastic in the Archaeological Museum tomb of Alexander, called the Tomb of Alexander. Then I went to Petra, and those who have seen Petra would like that everyone goes to Petra. If people had money and so on, it's a place incredible. And then Lascaux. And all those places for me, when I saw them for the first time, I had an emotion. Suddenly I started to through this understand the past, make question, who has done this, for whom, for which reason, who is this artist or non-artist who has created this. And this emotion that I have, I want other people, all of you, to share it. And it's why I'm doing conservation and I'm doing preventive conservation. Because it's this way to transmit to others the emotion that you have. The emotion that we had by looking at this textile thing in the 14th century. Or all those objects you have here. I would like to know the story of this object. I would like. Why? Why? Who has done? When? He speaks, but we have to listen to him. Thousands of questions. No answer. It's made of thinking. So, those objects transmit to us messages. There is good, there are metal, there are text, and so on and so forth. So, the preventive conservation ensures the access of the cultural heritage without putting this object in danger.
Només dir, Gaël, que ells estan fent un esforç molt gran per poder terme i poder arrencar aviat, esperem, el primer màster de conservació preventiva a Catalunya, a les faltes professionals. I ara està veient molts, el director i molts dels seus assessors i companys, i volia posar un valor perquè realment feia molta falta i costa molt. Per tant, a més han fet el 30 aniversari, o sigui que jo... Moltes gràcies.
A veure, jo fa molts anys em dedico a la conservació preventiva. Per exemple, jo vaig estar a la primera reunió de la conservació d'Altamira. El primer que vam decidir és que està en Altamira i no es torna a obrir mai més. Em va fer cas? No. Primera qüestió. Segona, hi ha aquella definició que diu la idea de museus és estúpida. Vosaltres poseu, en català m'entiendes?
Sí,
Vosaltres poseu objectes valiosos i fràgils a dintre d'un edifici i després deixeu entrar les persones. El més destructiu que hi ha en aquest món és la gent que entra al públic, que veu els museus o que veu les obres d'art. Absolutament d'acord. Jo hi vaig estar durant 5 anys a la tomba de Nefertari, que ja no van llogar també amb nosaltres allà, treballant a la tomba de Nefertari. La tomba de Nefertari és la tomba més important del Valle de la Reina, a Luxor, a l'Egipte. Vam deixar la tomba en perfecte estat. Quan vam tornar al cap de 3 anys, hi havia de tot. El més perjudicial per la conservació preventiva és el coronavirus. Que desaparegui la humanitat. Tenim un exemple molt clar aquí a Catalunya sobre les pintures rupestres. Cogul ha desaparegut. I estarà en perfecte. Bueno, no, però en fi. La Ventorta, la meitat ha desaparegut. Ha desaparegut en 10 anys o 12 anys. Tutankamon, un horror. És una tomba que és, bueno, més o menys, el volum seria com aquesta sala. Entraven 3,5 milions de persones l'any. S'ha tingut que restaurar durant 10 anys, no s'havia de res, perquè quan han entrat 3,5 milions de persones, i tant Albert com jo sabem, des que eren petitets, jo era més petitet que ell. Que nosaltres, si haguéssim pres les mesures de conservació preventiva a aquesta sala abans d'entrar i el prenguessin ara, això estaria ple d'aigua, això estaria ple d'anhídrid de carboni, la temperatura hauria augmentat una borrada, la humitat relativa hauria baixat, hi hauria pols per tot arreu, hi hauria bitxos, hi hauria coronavirus, hi hauria de tot. Vull dir, el més perjudicial per la conservació preventiva és la gent. I les coses que s'han conservat són les coses que no hi ha en la gent. Ell mateix ens ha dit, Lascaux, 18.000 anys tancat. Quan vam entrar, estava en un estat de conservació horrorós. Jo havia estat a Lascaux, no amb ell, no amb la... però d'això, treballant a Lascaux amb el de...
Prima di Cristo.
I havia caigut pigments, havien trobat pigments per terra, una cosa horrorosa. Ho van tancar i la cova es va restaurar, diguem. Però el perdut està per sempre. Aleshores, la meva pregunta, i amb això acabo, perquè jo és un rotllo terrible, quin dret té una quantitat de gent de destruir el patrimoni cultural de tot el rest? Per què no podem tancar totes les coves que hi ha pintures rupestres? Per què no podem tancar totes les tombes del Valle de la Reina i el Valle del Rei? Per què? Per la pressió política que existeix per mantenir aquestes coses verdes, el turisme, la restauració. Jo torno a dir, jo acabo, que el millor és el coronavirus. Quan menys gent quedi, millor és la restauració. Moltes
gràcies. You see, there are two extremes. Either you close everything or you open everything. I think that there could be a middle. Somebody would. There are some situations where it can be open. We cannot say the whole cultural heritage we close it for ourselves, because we have the right. Yes, we, but not the other. It's not respectful for the population.
We have the right to destroy it.
No, because, wait. The public has to, for me, the public has to know. If we don't teach the public, if we don't inform the public, of course they don't know. They always think, oh, it has come for 2,000, 1,000, and so on years, it will remain. No. No. We have to explain. And if we explain, the public is intelligent enough. There will be always some stupid people who will write their name and so on. But the public is our friends. The public is our friend. We should not see the public as our enemy. They are our friends. If we explain to them, I have many examples, but it will be for the 60th anniversary. question.
I ells volen saber, primer, que qui vulgui marxar per aquest any que no tingui problema, que no s'ofendrà, però que si algú té alguna pregunta està a la vostra disposició perquè li feu el que vulgueu.
Per an exchange.
Si voleu fer algun intercanvi.
Because I understand you have a lot of things to
Sí,
do. And,
està preocupat per vostè si vol marxar.
if some people want, if they have questions, I am ready to exchange with you, not to answer, because I have not. Wait. We have. We will have dinner together. We have explained. Are there other questions?
Sí, jo veig una pregunta. Això que deia el Porta es absolutamente radical, ¿no? Porque vamos a cerrarlo. Entonces, yo, como reflexión, te pregunto, ¿qué sentido tiene un patrimonio que no puede ver nadie? ¿Qué sentido tiene el patrimonio si nadie puede aprovecharlo? Entiendo que la preventiva tiene que buscar ese equilibrio, pero hay que buscarlo, hay que encontrarlo, ¿no? Ese es el mensaje, ¿no?
Torno a dir, quin dret té un grup de gent de descobrir un patrimoni? Perquè no tenim sistema, per molt que vulguem, no tenim sistema.
Look, I have just shown you this, and I show you this letter. This letter that we received was this letter that I just showed you. Was the follow-up of a European project which was all over Europe, which was called the city under the city. Barcelona is built on Barcelona. Rome is built on Rome, Paris on. So through this project, we wanted to make the child discover the city beneath the city. It was a one-year project all over Europe, and at the end, each school should produce something, a film, a PowerPoint, a plan for visitors from the city explaining. They were totally free, and there was a competition. And it worked well. We really, when you saw all those material produced by children who were 8 years old, not children, 8 years old, their teacher took them, school teacher took them to visit the city, to discover the city. For them, nobody has spoken about this for the children. And 10 years later, the people in Brussels wanted to know if it has been useful. It's good verification of the project. And they contact the children who had run this project in Russia, Italy, Spain, and so on, asking them, what is the result? And those are two letters that I have not read yet. You read this letter of children which are 18, and they were 8 when they did it. And they explain how it has changed their way to look at. And they say, now we are at the city, and they say, we are now proud. When there are foreigners, visitors, we explain to them, you imagine a kid which is 18 years old will take you around and say, look at this, look at that. And they say, after 18 years, we remember it. Because we teach them in an interesting way. And the result is there. You can read it. I won't read it. But those who are interested, I can leave it to you. It is amazing. Here you have 3 children. We were 3 children who have participated to that project 10 years ago, the city below the city. It was nice to find each other after 10 years to answer to this questionnaire. And they sign, and they say how, 18 years they write 2 pages to say how they have discovered the patrimony in which they were living every day. Of course it's required work, of course.
¿A qué precio de patrimonio?
It was the city of Padova.
un daño. Cuando hay gente, tú lo sabes mucho mejor que yo, cuando hay gente, hay daño. Te explico. Nefertari. Yo salí de Nefertari en el 92.
I know about Nefertari too. I know the Egyptians make errors. I went there in 1969. I know.
Pues se estropea el patrimonio y es irreemplazable.
Yes. No, is there any question? Other things I say will shock you. Okay, it has shocked you. Okay, it shocked you to say that the public has no, for you, the public has no involvement in the conservation of cultural products. If we follow those, it is finished. It's exactly like we say the public has nothing to do with conservation of nature. It is finished. It is finished. The public has a responsibility, and we have, because we know, we have the responsibility to teach it to the public. We have this responsibility to explain. Although on the technical point of view, there are other problems.
Cap pregunta?
Tinc tanta, el que passa que si no anirà a dormir, si jo fas com ho veus.
Conservation is, I think, in archaeological science.
Please speak without this because
The challenge.
you. Because you never know.
I think the challenge of archaeological conservation is, I think, in archaeological science, is very difficult. The museums, I think, is incomparably better more life than this.
On archaeological site, if the population who live around is not involved in the project, as we have done it in Altamira, you have seen there was we involved the population, we made queries and so on. If they were involved, not involved, we have lost. It's like to want to stop a river just like this, stop. We look at the public as our enemy. They are our friends. Forbidden to, don't enter, closed for restoration. No, open for restoration. You know, in Italy, Roberto Nardi started in 1992. I can show you this, I have 3 hours of this. Open for restoration. So, you have, it's what we did in Portico della Gloria at Compostela. We had a cost, but we had a scaffolding, special double scaffolding, one for people who were working, one for the visitor who could pass. It has cost, but the people suddenly realize. They don't say, oh, why it is closed, we can't see anything. No. We have to make them friends, we are fighting for the same thing. We are not here to prevent them to touch anything. Sometimes we say don't touch. Sometimes we say touch. We have Portico della Gloria was involved into this. I insist they wanted to have everything closed. No, please open, speak. It costs you more, about 10%. It costs it was somebody important. I'm here serious. I can't be serious. No. It costs roughly to involve the public on a site, and you were speaking of churches, and you were painting of churches. Before starting, when you have a scaffolding, call the whole population, invite them. Bring them on the scaffolding. Bring them on the scaffolding. So they will see. Nobody has teach them about it. No, they were looking at the mural painting like this. Suddenly they can see a mural painting like this. And you explain to them what it is. And you explain the difficulty you have and so on. They will be fascinated. They will, but I'd say it has been calculated that to do, when you make a project, when you project of conservation restoration of mural painting, for instance, it costs about 10% more. I could show you many examples. It costs 10% more. But at the end, if later the people who have been on scaffolding, they suddenly see that the roof is leaking and on the mural painting, they will call the mayor and say, please do something now. Do something. They see, all my life I've been like this. From 68, I tried to make people enter in the prehistoric cave of Lascaux. And it's where it opened my mind. And I realized that working with the public was an incredible support. Incredible support. Facing the politician, working with the journalist, superb. Inform the journalist. They are not here to fire us. If they understand the problem, they will refer of what is the problem. All my life I've worked with journalists. And sometimes they make an error. Or sometimes I don't ask them to write their name, but they write my name and they make errors. Once I was called this abbot. I was the abbot Gaël de Guichen. So that I was dressed in white, so that I was the abbot. Once I was called Miss Gaël de Guichen. No, I did a control. Okay, no, on s'en fiche. I don't care if they make an error of this type. But if technically they inform the public of the fragility of the cultural heritage, that you need care, that the cultural heritage doesn't will not continue if you have not specialists like you supported by your responsible. No chance. You will lose. You will lose. We will lose. We will lose. That's what, if you, but the difficulties can be seen. Preventive conservation is very rarely seen. The way this has been transformed, thank you very much for all of you who have transported, the way this has been transformed is part of preventive conservation. No one has seen this. I've seen at which care they have taken to bring it. And at every moment in the life of this object, or those one, in every moment in the life of this object, if there was no preventive conservation, it will have never come to us. And on prehistoric sites, it is especially complicated, because as long it has come to us under earth, and let's take a Roman thing, it has remained, mosaic, mural painting, and so on, as it has found its equilibrium in the soil, it can stay for 2,000, 3,000 years more, nobody will. The day we will take off the earth, it starts to damage. If we don't explain to people that because it's out of earth, there are new aggressors, and those new aggressors will destroy this, the public will not help us, and there will be no chance to make this site survive. There's no chance. For me, preventive conservation, I tell you, it automatically. It's not just technical thing. Alors, with light, look, the textile must be 50 lux, please. Please, 50 lux. And if you have wood, wood, 50% relative humidity plus or minus 1. E vattene. What they say in Italian. I'm sorry to be a little... No. This is just what you learn at university. But in practice, it's not just, our work is not just technical work. I repeat, not how to do it, why to do it. Preventive conservation is not how to do it. 50 lux, 50% or 60% plus or minus. Why I'm doing it. And if I'm doing it for the public, I have to inform the public, and the public will help me, I can assure you. And other, we do what I call Ayatollah conservation. That's the painting, don't touch, don't move, don't take photo, don't approach, don't take. If I say 20 times that I have not to touch this, I will touch it on purpose.
That's it.
Thank again Angel, who have invited me to give this lecture for the 40 years. And also I have to thank her very much because she offered me a bottle of white wine at lunchtime, and you see the lesson. Thank you.